Oh, we are finally live. We had a ton of technical difficulties. I hope you guys can hear us and see us okay. Let us know in the comments if you can't. We'll try to get it all worked out. But it has been far too long since we've done one of these Tales from the Comments videos responding to your questions and comments. So let's get into it. And we're actually going to talk about a lot of stuff from this last month, including Doctor Strange. We had a theory about Obama in the MCU. And we also had our latest video about why Marvel superheroes live in New York that was a little bit different. And you guys had a lot of stuff to say. So let's get right into it. So the very first thing that I want to start off with is our last video about why Marvel superheroes live in New York. And if you watch that video, you'll notice quite immediately that the format of the video was very different than anything we've ever done before. It was much more of a video essay rather than just me at a desk or standing up shouting about comic books to you guys. And we wanted to, there were a lot of concerned comments saying first and foremost, I want to say there was a lot of people who loved the format, who really gave us a lot of great encouragement and praise for it, which we thank you for. But there were also a lot of people who were concerned that that would be the direction that NerdSync was headed in, and it wasn't as fun or it wasn't as personality driven as it has been up until this point. And I want to put all those concerns to rest here. By first stating that this is not a permanent shift, right? This type of format is not going to be how every episode of Comic Misconceptions is going on. It's going to be for the rest of time, right? This is just something that we were experimenting with. It's something that we wanted to try out. You know, as can sometimes feel like we're stuck in a box and we can't really break free. We can't really experiment or try anything new. And so I wanted to just say, you know, we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely not a permanent change. It's probably only, I think we discussed it, we're probably only going to do maybe like one a month or so. A lot of people also brought up the idea that it didn't feel like a Comic Misconceptions. It just felt like a completely other thing. So maybe label it as something other than conceptions. So I do want to say that, and we'll talk more about this at the end of the video. At the end of the stream, I think for me specifically, the focus on different shows and different series on the channel, that's something we're gonna take away a lot of the focus on. We're just gonna try to make NerdSync videos and not necessarily make Comic Misconceptions or not necessarily make Alter Ego. And I'd love to know your thoughts about that. We'll discuss a lot more about the state of the channel at the end of this stream, so stick around for that. But I want to get back to some of your guys' comments about it, all right? So first, let's move into Mr. Dariox555, who leaves a great comment. In the video, I had talked about how the difference between Marvel and DC's approach to superheroes is that Marvel tries to make their heroes more relatable, in my opinion. A lot of this was my opinion, by the way. Whereas DC Comics tries to make their heroes more aspirational. They don't show us who we can be, they show us whereas Marvel shows us who we are, DC shows us who we can be. Mr. Dariox kind of argues against that, saying it's not necessarily that DC has characters who we are trying to be, but rather they're characters. They're people that they're like characters that we could never become, right? They're out of our reach. And, you know, a lot of this is a matter of opinion, depending on how you interpret those things. But for me, if I can kind of elaborate a little bit more on my stance here, I think Marvel, the overall vibe from Marvel is that, you know, this is who, basically it's be yourself. That's what I kind of get from Marvel. Be yourself, because you, just as you are, can be a superhero. Whereas DC, I kind of see their approach as be better. Be better than yourself, right? Batman is a human, but he's also the peak level of human, both in body and mind. Superman might have unlimited powers, which, you know, is a debate all in itself, but he's incorruptible, essentially, whereas a normal person with that much power might become completely corrupted by it. So these are characters who show us that being ourselves is not really good enough. We need to be better, whereas Marvel is just be yourself, guys. You're already a So that's one man's opinion. So I'd love to know what you guys think as well. We'll be doing a big kind of Q&A, further comment stuff at the end of the stream as well. It's going to be kind of a long stream, longer than normal for these types of videos, which I know a lot of you guys probably. Let's move on to Peter Townsend. This actually comes from our Reddit. If you didn't know, we have a NerdSync subreddit. I think it's just r/NerdSync. We don't promote it that often, but it's there if you want to go post stuff. Peter Townsend over there leaves an incredibly lengthy comment and a really well-written one about the video, kind of bringing up a couple things, saying that I might have a Marvel bias, and that I was not really showing. I was showing all the good things about having superheroes based in New York, but I wasn't sure. But I'll pick that up later. So if I can elaborate this on a little bit more, and we had a big conversation on the subreddit as well between him and I. So when he says that I have a Marvel bias, or the video has a Marvel bias, it's more so that I think him and a lot of you guys who left comments on the video kind of have a misunderstanding of what the video was supposed to be. And maybe that's on me for not presenting it better. But the video was not supposed to be, this is what Marvel does, here's why they should and shouldn't do it. It was just supposed to be, this is what they do. And kind of talking about that. So when we're talking about, Marvel superheroes living in New York and why there's so many of them, I think a lot of the commenters started interpreting that as me saying Marvel Comics is more relatable and more realistic because they live in New York, when really I was saying they're relatable and they live in New York, two completely separate thoughts. So yeah, I think the point of the video for me was not to say this is why it's a good and bad thing to have them in New York, but rather to say this is why they're in New York. So maybe in the future we could discuss, benefits and upsides and downsides of that stuff, but that's not what the point of this particular video was. Cool. I'm gonna get my phone that I dropped on the floor really fast. Let's move on to, actually before we move on, I do want to say this one thing though, because you're talking about a Marvel bias in the videos. I even tweeted this out the other day. So, for me personally, I don't particularly like having a neutral stance. I don't like trying to be unbiased in our videos. I would, if this is a personality-based channel, which a lot of you guys, believe that it is, because obviously the comments on the video were saying things like, where's Scott? I miss his kind of personality that didn't really shine through in this video. I think from here on out, I'm gonna try to, not focus too much on being neutral, not focus too much on being unbiased. If I have an opinion about something, I'm going to say what my opinion is. I'm not going to try to bend over backwards to make sure that everything has equal light. I have opinions, and I feel like if this really is going to, if this is a personality-based channel, as it seems to be, then I'm not going to try to hide behind, trying to be neutral and trying to be unbiased. So just from here on out, know that if you think a video that I do has some sort of bias to it, probably does. And I'm not going to try to pretend that it doesn't. So I'm also not going to claim that I've ever been neutral in any video. I've tried, but it's never really worked. And I'm never really happy with how they turn out when I try to hide what my real opinions are. So, that's a talk for another time as well. Let's move on to the Obama video. The video about, we did a theory of whether or not Obama exists in the MCU. And a lot of you guys had some stuff to say about this, starting with Sci-Fi Pie, who brings up the idea that the MCU is a fictional universe, right? So a big part of this theory was that I was deciphering the Marvel timeline and saying, well, okay, if Iron Man 3 takes place in the Christmas of 2012, then it had to have been an election year. But Sci-Fi Pie points out, well, it's a fictional universe. Perhaps they had elections in different years. Something happened, maybe, and the election process was established on a different date, or maybe, what have you, right? And it's a fictional universe. The possibilities are endless, right? So that's a really good point. Can't really refute that. That's absolutely possible. Which also Jedi Salamander Gaming brings up another point, which is a fantastic name, by the way. Good on you. That perhaps Obama, we know that Obama exists in the MCU, but we don't know if he ever became president. And they're saying, well, maybe he was president, but just before all of this. Like, instead of in our universe being elected in 2008 and 2012, what if he was elected in 2000 or so, again, it's a fictional universe. Any outcome is possible. And that certainly could be the case. There's not a whole lot of evidence one way or the other, so it's kind of just whatever you want to believe, whatever your interpretation is. And then we also have a couple comments from Connor O'Brien and SKT, who both talk about, well, what if instead of Joe Biden being Obama's VP, what if Matthew Ellis was the VP, and then during, say, the Battle of New York, something terrible happened, like, you know, maybe Hi everybody, sorry about that. Our audio recorder died. We have a ton of technical difficulties here. I apologize.
Proof that it's live.
Proof that it's live. You're right. Exactly. Gotta love these. What was I talking about? Oh yes. Yeah, Ellis could be. This idea that Connor O'Brien and SKT were bringing up is that it would allow us to say that Obama was elected president in the MCU, but also that Matthew Ellis stepped in after something happened. Maybe he, unfortunately became a casualty of the Battle of New York. Who knows? Not too terribly much to add to that. I don't think, as far as I know, there's no evidence that Joe Biden exists in the MCU. I could be wrong about that, though. So if you have anything, let me know, because that could kind of blow this idea open. I mean, even if he exists, I guess that's not evidence to say that he was the VP. You would need evidence that he both exists and was the VP. So, I don't know. But again, all of these, and this is the case with any theory video, nothing that I say, no theory that I propose should be taken as fact. They're all open to interpretation, including this. And so I'm glad to see that you guys are using your own imagination for this. So, let's move on to our last video to talk about, which is Doctor Strange. We did a video about Doctor Strange and how he may have been originally supposed to be portrayed as Asian in the comic books before Steve Ditko changed him in his origin story to be a white guy, which sparked a lot of debate in the comments, but I really only have two things that I want to focus on. So the first thing is Kurt Busiek, who I brought up in the video as someone who's been a huge proponent of this idea that Strange was originally Asian. He tweeted me. I shared him the video. He tweeted me and he said that I did get one thing wrong, which is the comic book with Dr. Droom was not actually drawn by Steve Ditko. Did help out in some capacity, like with inks or something. But that's just a little bit of information. He was still a part of that process of Dr. Droom, but wasn't the one who drew him going from a white man to an Asian man when he got the mystical powers. So just a little bit of correction there for me. But the biggest thing, the most commented comment on the video is about Vincent Price. So many of you guys commented about the actor Vincent Price from back in the day, saying that the look of Doctor Strange was inspired by Vincent Price, who was a white guy, which apparently, supposedly, blows this whole idea that he was originally an Asian character wide open, and it doesn't make sense anymore. Now that we know definitively he was based off of Vincent Price. The problem is, we actually don't know definitively that he was based off of it. As far as I can find, there's no evidence to suggest, there's a lot of evidence to suggest it. There's no hard evidence to confirm it, right? That Ditko was pulling inspiration from specifically and explicitly and purposefully. As far as I can tell, the best kind of explanation I could give is that He was originally supposed to be Asian. We kind of saw that with the Dr. Droom character. But once they decided to tell his origin story and make him a white guy, that's when they started, because that's around the time in the comics when he started to look like Vincent Price, once they made that shift after the origin story. It wasn't originally. He didn't originally look like Price. It was after they told his origin, which is around the time, supposedly, when they also changed his ethnicity. So with that in mind, a lot of people were bringing up how his middle name, Stephen Strange's middle name, is Vincent, which is supposed to be a reference to Vincent Price. And again, we didn't know this originally. In fact, we didn't even know that his name was Stephen originally, and we definitely didn't even know that his last name was literally Strange. For all the readers knew, it could have just been an alias, like Dr. Octopus, not actually his last name, but just a name that he chose, Dr. Strange, when his real name could have been something like Tom Dewhurst or something. So if the argument is that his name was Vincent, or his middle name is Vincent, so that shows us that originally Ditko based him off of Vincent Price. I don't think that argument can be made because, again, we didn't really know that his middle name was Vincent until many, many issues in. We didn't even know his name was Stephen until 4 issues in. So I'm not saying this isn't true, but I'm saying with the evidence that we have, with the art itself, then the most likely explanation to me is that when they were making him, when they were changing him to a white protagonist, that they went, oh, well, you know what? After this guy kind of looks like Vincent Price. Now that I think, let's accentuate that. Let's make him. So, and I know there's going to be a lot of arguments against that. If you find, and I'm 100% serious about this, if you guys find any solid evidence of like an interview where Ditko said he got the inspiration, or even Stan Lee or something like, well, even Stan Lee's a bit iffy, he kind of makes stuff up, but any like solid evidence, I would love to do it. I will absolutely make a video that goes into depth about that, just to correct the record a bit. So, I think since we already of the and also do a big kind of Q&A session at the end. How long have we been going? Do you know?
17-ish minutes.
17-ish minutes? Boy, it feels like it's been a lot longer than that. But that's all right. Let's talk about the state of the NerdSync channel right now. Kind of going in line with talking about the New York video that we did, right? So as I was talking about, we're gonna take the focus away from shows and show names. Like, we might still occasionally, I'll probably still title things Comic Misconceptions, because that's something that is searched for. But in terms of Alter Ego and Super Suits and Comic-Kana, those are all shows that, if you look at them now, if you go back and watch our old episodes on them, they don't actually say the titles in them anymore. They just say, like, Marvel's original Doctor Strange, NerdSync. Not Alter Ego NerdSync, just NerdSync. And we're taking those away for a couple reasons. We think it's better for people to click on a video because they're actually interested in the content, not because they're interested in who's presenting the content. And it also just allows us to stretch our wings a little bit, to try new things. And for example, this week, coming up on Wednesday, I'm doing a Harry Potter video, which is not comic books at all, really. So that's something that it allows us not to be put into these boxes creatively and say you can only make videos about this. I mean, think about Alter Ego for a second. That is an incredibly specific show. It's an informational, educational, comic book superhero show about specifically names, right? Names of comic books and superheroes and all that stuff. And that's so specific that it's hard to find topics for a lot of the times. Or what's even worse is we find topics that are interesting but don't fit into that genre, that don't fit into that mold of Alter Ego, so we can't really do anything with them. And so we're going to try, at least for the next month or so, maybe till the end of the year, we're going to try to do away with branding, essentially. No names of shows in the titles, probably no bumpers or of anything. We're just going to make videos about superheroes and comic books and nerdy things, right? Like Harry Potter, because I like Harry Potter. I have a wand somewhere around here. It's on the ground. But yeah, so I hope you guys understand why we're doing it. I cannot stress this enough. The content will not actually change. right? We're not gonna do videos that we wouldn't have done otherwise, right? We're not like going out, we're not gonna start doing like gaming stuff or anything on this channel, you know? But instead, we're just gonna try and make more videos about superheroes and comic books, and not put ourselves, not label them in a way that makes it so we have to deliver a very specific type of video every single time. And it'll allow us to try new things like the New York video, like the video essay. You know, people were complaining about how it didn't feel like a Comic Misconceptions, even though it was labeled as a Comic Misconceptions. Well, if we don't label anything, then people will just click on it and go, oh, that was an interesting video. It's different than the other videos but you're not really expecting one type of a thing, right? Like with super suits, you're expecting a very specific type of video. But if we change it up, maybe do some on-camera stuff, maybe, I don't know, make it more serious and less fun and energetic, then you're probably gonna complain about it. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, we're not like erasing every show ever. There still will be super suits and alter ego and stuff. They just won't be called that.
Right. That's the other thing that I want. I don't know if you could hear Dylan over here, but we're not doing away with Comic-Con. We're not doing away with super suits. We're not doing away with alter ego or any of that stuff. They will still be here, but we're just not going to call them that. Like, for example, if we were to do the alter ego about Doctor Strange, about the original Doctor Strange, right? That video was not in any way labeled as an alter ego in any capacity. DK hosted it. That's really the only thing. But if we had to label it, we would still call it an alter ego video. So that video still would have existed regardless. It's just not being labeled as alter ego. So that's the important thing. Like, Comic-Con is still going to break down comic books for us. It's probably just not going to be called Comic-Con. It's just going to be like how this artist does this thing with this character, and you're going to click it and be like, wow, that's interesting. Oh, and Haas is talking about it, that sort of thing. So I hope that makes sense in some capacity.
Something somebody asked is bumpers, are they staying or are they going?
Bumpers, good question. For the most part, bumpers might be going away. Because, again, I don't want people to click on a video that's not titled and then see a bumper for maybe a show that they don't particularly care for. Also, I like making bumpers. I don't like how bumpers break things up. I'd rather jump into the content and actually start talking about it. And even the NerdSync bumper at the beginning, we're probably going to move that to the very end of the video, simply because it's just, you know, it just takes up 3 seconds at the beginning of the video when we could be jumping into it. So.
Can you explain what bumpers are? People don't know.
Bumpers! Sorry! If you don't know what bumpers are, bumpers are the little kind of like theme things.
I'll play one.
You'll play one.
That's a bumper.
That's a bumper. We have them for Comic Misconceptions. We have them for tie-ins, and we've tried to do them for alter ego, but that doesn't really work out. Comic-Con has kind of one where Haas just talks about it. Super Suits is more just like a picture with Joel talking over it. So all of that stuff, and what this means is, for example, Joel can make more videos on the channel without having to talk about like legal issues and you know, lawsuits and stuff. Also, the reason why we delayed the stream so much, originally it was supposed to happen at 5 p.m. our time, Central Time, but we pushed it back an hour and a half and then had technical difficulties and had to push it back even further. But the reason why is because we just got done having a huge NerdSync meeting with a lot of us here and talking about the future of the channel. So some things that we're going to be trying out from here on is, and I'd love to know your opinions on this. Dylan's going to feed me opinions from you guys, so please don't be shy down there in the comments. We're thinking about potentially introducing some sort of weekly comic book superhero news breakdown show, right? If that makes sense. So, and things that don't have to be incredibly researched and well written out, and could be kind of like more of an off-the-cuff, personality-based, you know, like a nerdy news type of thing, but specifically geared towards comic books and superheroes. What are your opinions about that? And also, in terms of super in the early talks right now. We don't even know who's going to be hosting it. It's probably going to be multiple people hosting it, so it's not just one person every week that you have to look forward to. It could be just all of us, If there's Aquaman news, there's not a chance I'm going to let anybody else talk about Aquaman news. I'm going to talk about the Aquaman news. If there's Spider-Woman news, I feel like, I don't know, DK could probably do that one. Or Dylan. Whatever. Has anyone commented about
this? People seem to really like the idea. There's one or two that are like, it could work, it might not.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah.
One question I saw was regarding the show changes. How are we going to organize playlists now?
That's a good question. So we do a section of playlists. So currently our playlists are organized by the shows, right? We have an alter ego playlist, a comic misconceptions playlist, so on and so forth. But we also have another way that we organize the shows, which is by topic. We have a bunch of playlists that are like, here's Marvel videos, here's DC videos. We have even more specific stuff, like here's all of our Spider-Man videos, all that stuff. So we have a ton of playlists on the channel, but we also have like learn by subject, which is a section on our channel that you can go to right now if you wanted to after this stream. So you can go to a section that says like learn by subject, and there'll be stuff like comic book science, comic book philosophy, comic book art and culture, that kind of stuff. That is basically organized, and a lot of it is kind of like organizing it by show, because we have like for example, we have a playlist called like comic book law. 100% of all super suits go in there, because that talks about comic books and legal battles and lawsuits and stuff. But there are also other videos in there talking about like why Superman isn't public in the public domain, right? That's not a super suits video, but it does talk about comic book law, and it does fit into that category. Like Comic-Con videos will most likely always fit into comic book art and culture, because it's in that art section. Which breaks down the comic panels and everything. So you can kind of gauge where you're, like, if you can identify why you like a certain show, like if you like Super Suits because you like the legal stuff, or if you like Comic-Con because you like learning about comic book art. If you like Alter Ego because you like learning about the history of the comic book industry. All of those are already subsections, and you can, instead of saying I like the show, ideally you could say I like the show for this reason, and then we have a playlist that kind of answers that reason, like why you might like it. And we've got everything from like psychology, philosophy, science, art and culture is what I said, law, bunch of other FAQs. We have a playlist that's just for FAQs, things like how many times has Jean Grey died, right? If you just want classic questions answered about comic books, we got a playlist for that as well. So we got playlists out the wazoo already on our channel page. You can go check it out. Hopefully that's as helpful, or maybe hopefully more helpful than organizing it by show. Any other questions?
How is the schedule of videos going to change? Schedule of videos,
great question. So we're still, I don't know if you noticed, we kind of changed the schedule a little bit just a couple days ago. Instead of, we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Instead, we're going to try and do Wednesday and Saturday, I think. Hey Dylan, really quickly, just so we don't have to do the thing, if you can just like fiddle around with that so it doesn't turn off again.
Which one?
Just fiddle the knob, yeah. Fiddle the knob, take that out of context. Anyway, what was I saying? Video schedule. So we're changing it to Wednesday and Saturday for now, because I feel like that gives the videos more room to breathe in between each other. So it's not like Wednesday and then we have a 1-day break and then Friday and then nothing for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And we're kind of spreading them out a little bit, letting them each stand on their own. We will occasionally do these live streams more often. The plan was to do them actually twice a month instead of once a month, but we kind of fell behind, and then there's this whole holiday coming up in the US. So yeah, the plan is to do these probably every other Monday or so, and then keep comic misconceptions every Wednesday, do some other show every Saturday. I'm still getting used to it myself. And eventually, if we continue to make new videos at a more frequent basis, which this also allows, by the way, this new idea, this new planning that we have will hopefully allow us to make more videos quicker, because we don't have to think of like, well, what's a lawsuit that I have to that it could just be like, what's a cool thing I want to talk about? Oh, I can talk about this, I can talk about that. And it doesn't have to be about lawsuits necessarily, but it could be, right? If he still wanted to do more super suit stuff, he absolutely could. And he probably will. Same with not having them strictly scheduled and just kind of being like, we need a video for this Saturday. Which video is done? That's kind of how the schedule is going to be moving forward.
Do you want to explain why you don't do indie comics again?
Sure. This is a question I get all the time. It's actually, if you go to my Twitter page, it's the pinned tweet of why I don't do indie comic books that much. But I'll go ahead and explain it. I've explained it in other live streams before. I've explained it in all over the place. But just as a quick refresher, it's a lot of reasons. Number one, I'm more comfortable with Marvel and DC. It's stuff that I can write about easily without needing to do too much research. It's something where I can get into the content of the video without having to explain to someone who a character is. Like, if I did a Batman video, I don't have to spend the first 3 minutes explaining to the viewer who Batman is. Everyone just has an understanding of who Batman is. But if I do Valiant stuff, like I've done in the past, you can watch those videos, and the first at least 2 to 3 minutes is me having to spend time to explain who that character is, without just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, everyone's on board before we can actually move into what the video is about, which is kind of cumbersome. It's kind of a hassle. There's also a ton of other reasons. Like I said, on my Twitter page, it's the pinned tweet. It's just called like why I don't read or why I don't make videos about indie comics that much. Another thing I want to add though is another point in that post is that there are lots of videos that aren't about Marvel or DC, but they're just about comic books in general, and Marvel history stuff, like the Comics Code Authority we've talked about before. We've talked about how to define comic books, just what is a superhero. That applies to all across the board of not just comic books, but movies as well. He's here. I'm not talking to a stranger. Or an imaginary ghost. Imaginary ghost? That's double you not there. Any other comments?
Somebody asked about politics, but I'm going to skip that.
Well, this is a perfect example of me saying how I'm not going to pretend to be neutral or be unbiased. But no, okay. Now's not the time. I'll pick my battles, but we'll continue moving forward. Nothing interesting.
NerdSync Sidekick, somebody mentioned.
Oh, the NerdSync Sidekick channel. Yeah. So we have a second channel. It's got one video right now. It's called NerdSync Sidekick because I thought that was pretty clever. It's blue instead of red. And and we're gonna just try to post a bunch of random stuff there. Not just focusing on me. It's gonna be the whole NerdSync crew. A lot of people that you've never seen before, who will be posting literally anything that they want to post about. It could be what they thought about a movie that they recently saw. It could be us doing unboxings or reviews of things. It's just kind of like our secondary channel where we're gonna try stuff out and experiment and do a whole bunch of new and exciting avenues with. We also are going to, with the news show, to bring that back into focus. That's not going to launch like anytime real soon. We're actually going to be trying that out. We're going to try and have different people host it and just try and make it and just to see if it's even viable for us to do on a weekly basis before we, put it up and say like, all right, now we've committed. We've made the deal to put one of these out every month or every week rather. Then we're going to actually just see if we can make those. And those videos won't go public anywhere. But we will be posting them on our Patreon page. I had to get a Patreon mention into this live stream. Patreon.com/NerdSync if you want more behind-the-scenes info, if you want more, access to us directly through our Discord server. We're always chatting in there. It's always a good time. A bunch of other stuff, too. You got a NerdSync No Prizes. We're about to send physical NerdSync No Prizes out to people. Probably tomorrow or the day after, really soon. So if you want any of these awesome things, go support us at patreon.com. patreon.com/NerdSync. Really, though, if I can just spend a little bit more time on this, really, the whole point of Patreon is that you guys are the reason why we can continue to make videos. And I mean that in the most literal sense possible. Dylan knows. He's seen how much YouTube AdSense makes us. It's not a lot. And we have a big team that of editors and writers and people that we need to pay making this possible.
It's kind of scary sometimes, just saying.
It's very scary sometimes when I have to struggle to pay him so he can pay his rent, and also so that I can pay my own rent. Holiday season and probably shopping for other things, for other people are on your mind, and you don't really want to spend that much money on us, but it really, sincerely, genuinely helps us out in ways that it just makes what we do here more stable and more predictable, and that allows us to continue making videos for you guys. So we don't randomly disappear from the internet one day, which would be sad.
Somebody asked earlier about the putting podcasts back on YouTube.
Yes, podcasts back on YouTube. We are working on that, actually. We're in the process of turning every 100+ episodes of the podcast into videos, and then uploading those into another channel called the NerdSync Podcast channel. And we've got probably like 60 or so of those videos done, but we still have a lot to go. We're hopefully going to have it ready to launch by the beginning of next year. And you guys who don't like iTunes, who maybe don't like SoundCloud, you can go watch those and listen to the podcasts on YouTube now. So, which also, hey, helps us out because we can make AdSense off of the podcast. Which is right now the podcast, by the way, earns us zero money, actually costs us money. So, yeah, that's that.
A couple of people have asked, Shadow Wolf and somebody else, who's all the NerdSync?
Who's all the NerdSync? This is a great question. I think we counted it earlier. We have about 11 people working for us. 11 people working for us, most of whom are working for free. Which is incredibly generous of them to do. We've got, obviously, you know me, you know Dylan, he's editing, he also he's going to start making videos for the channel. He's also got his own YouTube channel. Yeah.
I'll announce it.
Oh, yeah, you go ahead.
Hey, fans of my channel, I talked about this briefly, a show called Parallels that I put up. That's canceled, but it's coming to NerdSync.
It's canceled, but it's not. It's switching networks, essentially, right? It's like I'm the Netflix picking up the canceled shows from everybody else's channels. So yeah, Dylan's gonna be making videos. We got DK, who's also been, editing and making videos. Angela, who writes a lot of the alter egos. She's also gonna be streaming on our NerdSync Twitch channel as well.
I'll also be doing that.
A lot of people, the NerdSync Twitch channel is going to be more active. We have a lot of stuff moving forward, and it's making me incredibly anxious, but I'm excited for it. We got Bryce and Chris who are on the podcast. Bryce is actually editing the podcast. Chris just shows up. Oh, he's great, though. I just show up, so I don't know. We also have, I know I'm forgetting people. We got Nolly and Dave who help out with the comments. We've got Lanisha who does all of our social media stuff, including the newsletter, which is incredibly helpful. If you're not signed up for the newsletter, I don't want to give you too many calls to actions, but nerdsyncnews.com, you can sign up for our twice monthly newsletter. It's a ton of fun. One came out actually yesterday. So with wrong information on it, I might add. So that's a story for another time. But it was completely my fault. It wasn't Lanisha's fault at all. She does a fantastic job. She actually runs the Facebook page and the Instagram page as well. So if you see of NerdSync, I run my own stuff. So if you see NerdSync posting, responding to your comments, that's her. She does a fantastic job. I do Twitter. I do all the Twitter stuff. Twitter's my game. Is that everybody? Am I forgetting people? Hass and Joel as well. I forgot to mention Hass and Joel. They just make videos for us, and then we kind of take over from there. I think that's 11 people.
I wasn't counting.
Me neither. No one was counting.
Everyone's important. If we forgot anybody, they're very important.
You're an important part. You're a cog in the machine. Is that a good thing? I think so. The word cog just sounds negative to me. It has kind of like a cog. You know what I mean? But anyway. Anything else? We can wrap up. We've been doing this for a while, I feel like. How long have we been going? Less than an hour, I think, but pretty long.
Right as we were going to wrap up. What about the app?
Oh, the NerdSync app. So here's the thing about that. I never said it was an app. You guys are very presumptuous. It's not an app. It's actually a website that we're working on. And I took that screenshot because I was testing to see if, when you're on your phone and you can save a website to your home screen. Yeah, you get it. I was testing to see if I could get an image to show up, and I did, and it worked. So we're working on a NerdSync website, and it's a work in progress. We're hoping it launches sometime next year. Probably I have to be realistic and say probably third quarter next year. It's gonna take a while. It's because we want to make sure we have all of our videos, all of our podcasts already up there for you guys, and also we're gonna use it to write articles and write reviews and a million other things to make it so you have a place for all of the NerdSync stuff. So, yeah. Is that it?
The music just ended, so...
Oh, the music ended.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's good enough. And if you like these live streams, let us know in the comments. We'll see if we can do more of them. I feel like I did rush through the comments real fast because I just like lightning round with the comments, which we could slow down. And we're experimenting here. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm now that the music has ended and now that we've already had technical difficulties and everything, I think it's time for me to just kind of relax and just take a breath. Be honest with you guys here for a second and say that sometimes it's fun to not be as professional as we are a lot of the time. So I like to think we are. Anyway, we're professional, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Not right now, obviously, but that's what these live streams are for connecting with you guys directly and I was gonna say impersonally, but no, it's the opposite of that. Personally. Well, yeah. Thanks for joining. And thanks for all of our patrons who are here and who are supporting us on patreon.com/nerdsync. You know where to go. And yeah, just thanks for watching our videos and sharing them around. We've got a lot more stuff coming up this year that we're really, really excited for. So we hope you stick around. And if this is somehow your first time here with us, you're a trooper. Thanks for hanging in there. Please subscribe. And I gave you a million calls to actions. Links to all the videos we talked about in the description down below. I'm just going to keep going until you eventually get overwhelmed with all the decisions and you make no decision to do anything except leave, which is what we are going to do right now. So we'll see you guys hopefully not in an extra month, but in a couple weeks for another one of these live streams. And I hope all of you guys who are in America or have similar holidays around this time throughout the rest of the world have a great holiday. Take it easy. We got some good videos coming up for you this week. Hope you appreciate it. And yeah, see you later.